The first part is sort of an overview of the work I've been doing for a Zcash community grant to basically do security audits and stuff for the Zcash ecosystem. And the second part is sort of a general talk about security engineering, basically some lessons we can learn from safety engineering that should help you make your software engineering teams able to make more secure software and things like that. So let's start off with the work I've been doing for my grant. So basically I have this grant that gives me a year of funding to do security audits for all of the Zcash community projects. So I do things like deep dive into the projects, audit all of the code, give them an audit report and help them fix the bugs. I also have open office hours that anyone can attend just to get whatever kind of security advice they might find helpful, help respond to bugs that get reported from third-party outside engineers, and I also spend a bit of time thinking about protocol design, like how do we solve the scanning problem in Zcash and get better scalability. What have I done over the past almost year? I've got 2 months left in this grant, and so far I've audited ZecWallet Lite CLI, YWallet, Lite Wallet D, Nighthawk's Lite Wallet D deployment infrastructure, Free2Z, Zgo, 2 implementations of hardware wallets, both Zondax's and Hans, and I also looked at the zips for Zcash shielded assets. By the way, the time remaining isn't updated, so I'm not sure how much time I have left, but let's keep going. Some other things I've been doing is, thinking a lot about how to solve the scanning problem, investigating bugs, helping with security responses, and probably spending way too much time on the forum talking about the upcoming dev fund and things like that. So here's a summary of sort of my output over the past year. In terms of the number of bugs I've found. So a critical bug is drop everything and fix this bug immediately because it's really, really bad. So this would be something like it's possible to steal a user's Zec. That's basically the only thing that would count as critical, and I found 2 of those bugs in community projects. A high severity bug is something that's really, really bad, but not absolutely drop everything and fix this, but still easy to exploit and has really bad consequences for users. So I found 21 of those in community projects. Medium and low are just lesser severity bugs. Low severity bugs are things you can safely ignore, just totally not security related bugs at all. And medium are bugs that could have an impact on users, but are kind of hard to exploit, or they really don't have that much of an impact. So 83 bugs in total I found, and 41 of which are medium or worse. So I think that's pretty good. It shows that this kind of security review is effective at plugging the gaps in project security. Now, if we break down the bugs by type, so most of when I look at a project, I'm especially in something related to Zcash, I'm really concerned about the user's funds. So the kind of bug I'm looking for most is what I call a funds at risk bug. And this is a bug that would let an attacker either steal the user's funds or burn the user's funds. So I found 19 of those, and you can see sort of the breakdown of critical, high, medium, and low based on the colors. Apologies to any colorblind people because I didn't choose great colors for that. Integrity bugs are any time an attacker is able to modify some data without permission. Something like changing an entry in a database or something like that when they shouldn't be able to. I found 6 of those. Privacy bug.
Do we have slides? I don't have something to move them with. Maybe here.
Those look like mine. I feel you're Yeah, looks like mine. You can go first. Good morning, everybody.
Am I waiting for slides to come up or waiting for direction here? All right.
Woohoo.
Good morning. I'm really excited and feel a great privilege to be here speaking to you from representing the ZCG, which I'm a part of. And in addition to supporting grants and reviewing them and approving grants, as we've already discussed, the ZCG also initiated the Global Ambassador Program about a year and a half ago. With the purpose of the Global Ambassador Program is to grow adoption and awareness in various regions of the world, especially in non-English speaking regions of the world where we felt that we had less influence. And we did this by appointing regional ambassadors. And this position requires some creativity because not only do the ambassadors get to decide what kind of content they want to create in terms of new educational materials in their regional languages that support their culture that they're immersed in, but they can also be creating actual experiences such as meetups. And as we know from being here, this kind of one-on-one in-person event can have a lot more of an impact on people than simply finding materials on the internet, although both, of course, are important. So this ambassador program, I think, aligns with Zcash, where we are currently in a couple of ways. One of them is our current, as we've expressed here, urgent feeling that we need to have more adoption on the one hand and decentralization on the other. And adoption, I think we don't really know in tech what really drives adoption. If we knew, that would be a great secret sauce. But one way that we often approach it is through a grassroots kind of approach, so that we're trying to grow use from the ground up. And so having actual people on the ground is a very important way to do that. And decentralization, of course, when we're talking about decentralization, we're often talking about the infrastructure, where engineers are, where businesses are, so that we have, jurisdictional kinds of decentralization. But decentralization is also important in terms of people, because people are different in different areas of the world. And so we want to have that kind of vibrancy and resiliency that comes with actual people who are using Zcash. But then it also aligns very much with the original Zcash mission, which of course is privacy in terms of having actual autonomy and the ability to have choice and consent through finance. And that mission is not something that we want only for ourselves in wherever where I'm from, in the United States, but wherever you happen to be born. And I think it's very easy. Most of us who are here and participating come from places where the threats of not having privacy are somewhat theoretical. We have the privilege of believing that it couldn't happen here. And so we don't necessarily have to think about what it would be like to be bankless, or what it would be like to have to actually worry about somebody keeping track of our monthly spending, or our views, our orientations, be they sexual or religious or ideas. But there are many places in the world right now where this is a much bigger concern. And so the ambassador program is important for those reasons. I wanted to just quickly show on the screen the posters that you may have seen out in the lobby walking around, because they are representative of some of the areas where we are, where we have ambassadors. So my slides seem to have disappeared. Here we go. So this first one is from Italy. Oh, no, that's Brazil. Not sure what happened to Italy. All right. Well, this is Brazil.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here is South Korea. It's showing there's a saying that if it looks good, then it tastes good, which is indicating you can tell the quality of something by examining it, and showing the giving of the Zcash from one to another, which is a very personal grassroots kind of sharing. Don't seem to have.
No?
Okay. Well, I encourage you to look at the posters outside, because they're all very beautiful and made to represent different areas and the different concerns that we have in various areas of the world. And I think it's a real testament to what we're doing and what this program represents. And so I'm just going to introduce our next speaker, and I think next will be Brazil. So we have Michael and Samara representing from Brazil. I want to say that I went to the Voces event earlier this year. It was absolutely phenomenal, very professional. With the help of the Zcash Foundation, they put on days of talks in Portuguese from local people and from international people, and it was just amazing to see that level of participation in another area. And it was a model, I think, for everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I will stand up and cut this. Thank you.
You want to make go?
Okay.
So, well, good morning, everyone. Morning. It's I'm Michael from Brazil. I'm the ambassador since last year. I'd like to thank for this opportunity. It gives me a lot for Brazil and representing Zcash outside of Brazil. And for meeting many of you for the first time. So that's the amazing thing about crypto. And today I will talk about a little bit our progress in Brazil and how it's started and how it's going. It's like a 10 minutes talk, but I think it will be great. I will show some interesting stuff that we create there and show the historic and the team as well. So I have some slides. I don't know if you.
I think you do need to press next.
Yes. So yeah, this is now your identity in Brazil. It's now logo and account. You are choose to use Z other than S because it's Brazil International. And here, how it started and how it's going. And this was my first event representing Zcash in Brazil. In that time, I was alone, so like creating the accounts and the community, and then how it's going now. So we are at 6 people. We got like a proposal approved. I started as ambassador, and I share like the budget and everything, invest in the community, because I think investing in people is worth it. So I share with the community growth a lot, and we have 6 people now receiving Zcash and pay directly from the grants. So that's amazing. Um, Zcash was born like at ceremony with 6 people. So today only in Brazil has 6 people. I think ZF and ACC and Zcash grants and our Zcash community need to be proud of it and this progress. I think it's Zcash has 7 years, so it's a baby away yet, but we have a lot of work to do. And yeah, this is our team here, and I show you our team. It's like a mini, it's a designer. I'm Michael, the ambassador, and Vito is community manager. Victor is here too. Yogi is designer, Zach is moderator, and Samara is PR. Samara is here. Can
So, how to introduce myself? I'm Samara, and even though I'm the public relation, most of the times I'm working behind the scenes. So sometimes you don't see much me uh, online, but I'm the helping hand behind the scenes.
I show you some things we create and did in Brazil, and starting like I did my research after getting into Zcash. I saw like Zuko and articles and Bitcoin talk, Satoshi talk about zero knowledge proof. So that's amazing. The paper Zero Coin as well, the idea. So I started doing my homework and I create like the medias. I truly believe in privacy and freedom. That's why we're here trying to create this revolution. And that's this full list is like some highlights that you made in Brazil. We got the proposal approved by Zcash grants for net 2000 for this year, and we made the first Zcon outside of US. So Brazil was chosen to be the first country, and I think for the confidence and for the trust, because community is like about people. You know, you need to trust each other to create great things. So Zcash vision, it's empower people, so you can. We are here, so you can prove that. So that's amazing. Um, yeah, we started like a Zcash server, and then that's become Zico Global with multiple language. So you can exchange experience and with our Zcash ambassadors, and to create more things to Zcash. For example, we have Vitor working directly with ZFAV. We have Mini and Yogi that are designers working with Zach Hub. So we create some collaboration between these communities, which is great. And we have made many partnerships in Brazil and collaborations with the community, the local communities. We have like GIGX and Ning projects, Bankless DAO, Shapeshift, Secret Network, Modular Crypto, Privacy Map. It's a first channel in Brazil that pioneer content about privacy. So he has like 10,000 subscribers already. So we are working together to create some privacy alliance in Brazil, and we are creating this collaboration because there's many things happening in Brazil, like CDBCs and financial censorship. So that's why we are together in that. Yes, you can.
So I will take a little over here. So you're probably thinking, where is the money going? Like, what we are doing? Like, so here we are first people first. So like, we think without people we can do nothing. And so everything we do is through our community. Like we are growing the community. And how? So we are providing opportunities for working together with us, doing knowledge panel, providing good quality of materials for learning, especially because most of the materials was in English. So me, Vito, and other Brazilians were helping with the translation. Uh, Brazil is an undeveloped country, so I feel like it will be a way that people will have a level up. So with the Zcash, so maybe they will find another way, like they can make a little bit, earn a little more money, and we give them. So we make this trust and give them incentives. So like we do prize draws, we do giveaways, like the last one we did, it was a ledger. Like for us in Brazil, this is very expensive, but it's to give back to the community, like because they trusted us to carry the Brazilian flag. So we think like we need to give it back. So we have mainly community management, moderation. We produce podcasts. I even had one with Ian. I don't think he is here right now, but it was in English. But we are thinking making another one in Portuguese/Spanish. We do airdrops normally at least 3 times in a week in our Discord. And we participating in face-to-face events, crypto side and non-crypto side, and actually online events as well.
Yes, just one thing. We create some with collaboration of James, another developer, Brazilian developer that joined us at the beginning. He developed like his Jeezy. It's a wallet using micro transactions as huge on the Discord, so we can educate people for the first contact with Zcash, and like Zcash fees is so low, so you can exchange and send and if you draw, etc. And inside the Discord for our wallet. And I have announced to talk about today. James create the Zcash faucets, so you can use you can put your T address or Z address or unified address to get some fractions in Zcash. So you can, like, we have this idea to spend a Zcash education and giving people little fractions and for them to feel more comfortable to create some wallets, some transactions, because it's, it's hard to, when people, oh, did you try this crypto, and is that, and did you need to have your auto custody? It's hard, and he create this so you can access is a Zec and faucet.com, I think. So you can try now. It's live. So yeah, this is our plan in Brazil to create many things for education, and people use this technology because it's incredible, solving many problems.
So a little bit of the mission here. So actually it's providing education and also like on-hand education, as Michael just said. So it's easier when you do something instead of just teaching. Raise the awareness of Zcash, of course, and providing financial freedom and making privacy accessible for all. Like, and we really need to make sure this it will be easier to, especially for people in favelas or like people they don't have much access for for internet. And so like we'll be promoting this and promoting and developing like the awareness about Zcash in Brazil. Economic development comes together, like even if we as many people as we touch, like they will have more access and they will having the chance to learn and earn more money and promote the community participation. Like everything in the end is about community. And
Yeah.
yeah, mainly.
Here are some examples of incentives that we create in Brazil. It's key members. We, like the designer team, create some avatars for us in Brazil. So this is from Latin America as well, and Jay from Telegram is the
Yeah.
zebra one because it's anonymous. But yeah, we have created like many activities with your community to keep them incentivized. And yeah, we created, we have many work to do because it's new. We have like 1 year and 2 months or 3 months as official. And yeah, half it's gone, so you will have more 6 months to create more great stuff for the Zcash ecosystem and community. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks to another Zcash ambassador for the contribution. And then you give the
Yeah, we are running out of the time,
Thank you.
but if you really need it, like please reach us. And thank you so much again.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Next, we have Madison, who's coming to us from San Diego. She brings a lot of experience in graphic design and an event organization, which she's now using to organize events for Zcash. Come up, Madison.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So thank you for waking up early and coming here to listen to all of these ambassador talks. It's an honor to be up here on the stage with these people. So thank you so much. First of all, my name changed. I got married in February, so I'd like to formally introduce myself as Madison Payment, which is fun because payment, crypto. So yes, you'll know me as Madison Payment from here on out. I do marketing and events full-time at Edge, and I'm also a global Zcash ambassador. I consider both to be a great privilege. I get to do something that I really love. And I know this is so cheesy, but I don't really consider myself a maximalist in regards to anything, but I was blessed with a social battery that doesn't really seem to run out. So you can call me a community and meetup maximalist if you like. So I didn't plan to do how it started and how it's going with them, but I have the same concept in my slides. So I actually co-organize the oldest and largest crypto meetup group in San Diego. We have over 2.5 thousand members. Back in 2022, I hosted Josh from ECC at an event at the Edge HQ. As you can see in this photo here, we maxed out our event space. It was a really special event, and what this told me was that there are people in San Diego who care about privacy. There are people in San Diego who want to learn more about this technology. So that's kind of how Zcash kind of entered my radar on a pretty big level. How it's going. So my Zcash meetup group is reaching about 60 members and growing. We're averaging about 15 to 20 members per meetup, which is actually pretty good for the bear market. So as you can see in this photo, one of my first meetups that I hosted was a Zcash media movie night. So we pulled all the couches and the rugs into the event space, and yeah, we hosted a movie night. So you can see the Zcash media team as well as Jason. And then this is also a core a core part of my Zcash meetup group. Like I said, we hosted the movie night. I've hosted technical talks as well. I know that, technical talks can sometimes not hit every audience, so I like to throw in technical talks as well as social gatherings and kind of change it up. I've hosted 2 bonfires. We are in San Diego, and so I like to also get people outside of the office and, into the beautiful San Diego. So the bonfires are a really, really fun way to get people involved, and it really brings out it's just like a different speed when you kind of break outside of the office. So those ones are super fun. And then not very many people know this, but I actually have my minor in ceramic arts. So I've always been like, how can I mix ceramics and pottery, or ceramics and crypto, pardon me. And this kind of came up as like somewhat of a joke, like, oh, what if we made a meetup out of it? And I did, and it was one of my favorite meetups of all time. The community had so much fun with it. Paul, he brought his kiddos and they had such a blast. Everyone was making Zcash art. One of my members is actually planning to scan his pottery and mint it as an NFT on the blockchain. So that was such a fun event. I've also hosted a ice cream social where I paid with Zcash with the Flexa app. So those are just some examples of the meetups that I've hosted in regards to Zcash. Another thing I want to mention too is Edge moved into this new office in 2021, and something that we thought was really important was to make half of the office desk space and half of it a venue space. So ever since we entered this office, we really had the mission of bringing people in person, and that's exactly what we've done. I would say I average 2 meetups per month. I host the Bitcoin and Open Blockchain meetup group that we hosted Josh at, and then I host this Zcash meetup group. But we also open our event space to other crypto meetup groups in San Diego. So I've hosted the ETH San Diego meetup group. There's a meetup group called Crypto San Diego. We've hosted them. There's many crypto meetup groups. Our venue is always open to them. So people kind of know to come to us if they're looking to get connected in the San Diego space. Here's some photos from some of the meetups that I've hosted. So as you can see, the one in the center middle, that one is the movie night that we hosted. I have one of the pottery pieces here with the Z's, and then bottom right, you can see that was another photo from the pottery night. I printed out zebras and shields and Zec logos, and that one was a blast. We have the bonfire, and then top left that was a roundtable discussion on regulation, so that was one of the more technical ones. But I know these are pictures to most of you, but the people in these photos have really become some of the closest people in my life. I sometimes get emotional when I talk about the people that I get to surround myself with, and it's true. These people really light up my world, and it's truly an honor to do what I do. Amber also mentioned that ambassadors get a level of creativity and autonomy, and I would say that is 100% true. As you can see, I've been able to run with my crazy ideas, and it's really paid off, and I think my members really love it as well. I just want to touch on a couple of things that I find really important when it comes to community. The first thing is inclusivity. I think there's enough division in this world. You don't have to agree with everyone around you, but it's important to come together with people that, are interested in the same things you're interested in. They want to talk about the same things you want to talk about. They want to learn from one another. The other thing is education. Not many universities and colleges have blockchain courses, and even if they did, which I know some of them do, but this industry moves so fast that they'd have to be changing the curriculum, every other month, and we all know how fast traditional education systems work. That doesn't really work. So these in-person meetups are really critical to educate people on what's happening in the here and now in the crypto industry, as well as networking. I mean, it's what a lot of us are here to do at this conference. It's what we get together for. Something that, or a super tangible example of how critical these meetups are is Edge was actually founded at the meetup I now organize. So of course I wasn't organizing the meetup back then, but the Bitcoin and Open Blockchain meetup group is the meetup that the co-founders actually met at. And now we have Edge, which is, such a cool testament to just in-person meetups. Also, we're looking out for our members. I've had the privilege of onboarding 2 of my community members onto the Edge team, just because, when there's a need, of course, I'm going to think about the people that I'm connecting with. I'm always thinking about the conversations I have with my community members and how I can get them involved in the thing that they're interested in. Like I mentioned, I feel blessed to do what I do and be passionate about what I do. And I want others to feel the same way about whatever they're interested in. So you're just looking out for everybody. This is my encouragement to all of you. Start today. Think about ways that you can get involved or get others involved. Start with your strengths and lean on your community for the rest. You don't have to be a community-facing member if that's not what you want to be. You don't have to be the world's best software engineer and do the meetup stuff. You lean on one another. I write here that delegation is empowering for all parties. If you don't have the strength, leaning on somebody that does have the strength empowers both people. And, I think that's a really critical part of community. This is my most important point. Build, maintain, and nourish genuine connections. If you're not doing it genuinely, then you just shouldn't be doing it at all. I think the more honest and true and raw you can be with those around you, they'll reciprocate the same thing. And you have to have each other's back, and I think that's been really evident in the community that I've fostered. And so I would really encourage you all to do the same. Show up every day just as you are, and those around you will do the same. Lastly, I know it just says thank you, exclamation point, but really, thank you. Thank you all for trusting me with spreading the word about Zcash and the technology that you work so hard on. I know that many of you put in a lot of hours into this project, so thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matthew.
Also, if you want to get connected with me, please reach out. If you are hosting a meetup and you don't know where to start, reach out to me. I got you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. Payment. Next, we have Tim, who is one of our newest ambassadors. Although he's been involved in Zcash for a few years, he's coming to us from French Polynesia, where the wealth disparity is quite salient.
One, two. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I haven't prepared any slides because I wasn't sure about the time I need to have for the speech. But first of all, thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express myself here. So you might know me on the forum under the name Team Ukrainian, but I'm living in French Polynesia, so I'm French too, but I have Ukrainian origins. So that was quite a way to go to arrive in French Polynesia. And I discovered Zcash almost in the same moment as a Bitcoin. So when I first discovered Bitcoin, I thought wow, this thing is awesome. You can be literally free with this thing. But then I started to think, wait a minute, if I go to buy some bread with my Bitcoin, I'm not really sure I want a guy from a bread store to know how much Bitcoin I have. So I advanced. I started to look in something more profound, something really that will respond to this necessity of privacy, transactional privacy. So I found Zcash. And since I discovered Zcash, I was involved in a Telegram community for a while. Then one anonymous person, I don't know who is it, I never seen him, he proposed me to be a member of Zcap, to just get engaged, to just have a voice to express myself. So I willingly accept that invitation, so I became a member of Zcap. After a while, I saw that there is also Zcash ambassador program. So I said to myself, okay, I'm trying already to onboard Zcashers, make more Zcashers, so how can I can go further? So this ambassador program is what it seemed to me a really thing to go on. So I applied for the Zcash ambassador program and I was accepted. So as my background, except Zcash ambassadorship, I'm working in a payment company in French Polynesia. So we have a payment system local for French Polynesia. It's like a Visa, but just in small scale. And I was already a Zcasher when I came to this company. So I was thinking of how we can bring cryptocurrencies in general and Zcash in particular to French Polynesia, because it's such a closed ecosystem in all ways, in nature, in culture, in business. So, but it lives from tourism. A lot of people come to Polynesia. It's like the pearls, vanilla, and the tourism. It's all that Polynesia has. And there is a gap between poor and rich that rises from year to year. And there are some people who have no homes, but they can get sponsored by a local operator, so they can make some TikTok video. Like there is a homeless person who have a TikTok, but he has no home. So I thought, this guy can have a Zcash wallet, even though he has any home, he hasn't any credit card, he can have a Zcash wallet because he got sponsored by a local operator. And this is the thing which is really, really great. So I'm just trying to tell people what do you really need from transactions, from cryptocurrency? Because also in French Polynesia, people are not aware of all these events, all this progress which is made in cryptocurrency space. They are living basically in Facebook till now. Like all the internet is basically Facebook. They're selling things on Facebook. They organizing meetups. It's everything. Like, I don't feel comfortable with that fact. It might be funny, but yeah, you're the cashier, you don't really appreciate Facebook. For me, it's like normal thing. So I started to talk about Zcash like a lot to everyone, and it was, for some it was a bit annoying. I can be annoying, yeah, but I understood that if a Polynesian, if a Tahitian, he don't want something, you better not to push himself. But you can make him need, you can turn it out that way that he'll say, actually, I might need that. So this is kind of my approach that I try to make. I also try to bring a lot of positivity to the community, like not just in French. I'm also participated in Russian community, in chats, in English, because there are a lot of discussion that goes on in a lot of places. There are Discord, there are Telegram, there are Signal, there are Matrix, and like Zcash communities everywhere. And there are a lot of French people who are not even speak French, they use English. So basically, I'd like, as an ambassador, what are the definition of ambassador? It's someone who connects people, who can bring someone, who can establish a link between the thing that ambassador represents and other people from the exterior. So bringing new, just new users who just buy a coin it's not the only thing to do. As I heard a lot with this during discussions with people here, Zcash also needs a lot of mind, a lot of brain to keep it developing. So sometimes you can find someone like developers are the community too. It's not just those who send memos and they just see the wallet and they don't even know how blockchain explorer works. It's also developers. So the thing I'd like to do is like bring everyone which can contribute in any way to Zcash ecosystem. And I'd like to pick people like one by one. You could be useful. You can do that. Look, you use Zcash, but you don't know what is Zec Hub. So why don't you go to see what is Zec Hub, and maybe you can earn some Zcash. Like people are not, sometimes I have a feeling that people are not aware of how wide the Zcash ecosystem is. So this is important. This is an important thing to connect all these parts of Zcash ecosystem, which I thought were not so fluid at the moment, but it seems to be getting better and better. And as working in payment company, we observe cryptocurrency for a moment. There is a lot to do on regulation level because it's like ecosystem. French Polynesia is France, but we have our own president, Polynesian president. By the way, he's a Bitcoiner, so I should make him Zcasher. And so I think there is a real possibility that opens to us with this kind of government, actually this kind of small independence from France, that we can move on to make Zcash like network which is used like Visa or MasterCard or American Express, because this day we are working with these networks. And if you connect to Zcash network, if you make it available on every terminal, maybe there is a way to open more ways. Like, it's a win-win situation. Zcash gains adoption and Polynesia gains more way to attract tourists and to bring money from exterior, because it's basically what Polynesia needs. So it's a work on different level. We're trying to engage some innovation labs in our company, so we can just experiment with each other. I don't have photos because people are there, they like to have some privacy. I think you understand, you totally understand that. But I think there is a way to go, but foundations are here, and it's really a good thing that Zcash is here. It gives us a lot of possibilities. It gives us a lot of ideas, because we can use Zcash in ton different ways, and everyone needs something particular. So I hope we will be able to find the right approach so everyone can have everything they want. And because on the basic level, it's privacy. It's just how you use this privacy. Is it for identity? Is it for payments? Or is it for something else like tickets or NFTs? I don't know. I'm very excited about ZSA. I'm looking at it closely, and I think there will be a lot of things to do, especially if I will speak a bit, again about the company I work in, because my CEO, he said, we should think about creating some local currency on crypto. I said, we won't be able to do it until it's private. So look at these ZSAs, and I think we might be able to do something with that. And this is our goal. Like, it's a long run to go, but I hope and I think it will be successful run. So thank you. I think I'm around out of the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Like Tim, Zecmek is one of our newest ambassadors, and he also, like Tim, is representing in one area, but has a very diverse background of his own with citizenship in Ireland. Zecmek tells me that Mek is French for dude, and so Zecmek is kind of a French pun, and he's representing from Occitania.
Hi. Yeah, so some of you will know me as Zecmek from the ambassador's reception, and others may also have seen some of the songs I've been putting out on the ambassador's reception under the handle of Johnny Zcash, which is also me. They're kind of a fun idea, I think, maybe. Maybe not that funny. I don't know. I enjoy putting them out there. Anyhow, I've been putting these meme Zcash songs out to try and promote the technology. I think that the technology is transformative, and we all know that. But much of the world is unaware. Most of the people I know are sadly laboring under the misapprehension that Zcash is, when you talk to people, they think you're trying to sell them something. And I think that the idea that we that this is an investment is actually the wrong thing. It's a technology, and I'll come back to that later. But so my YouTube channel has been thus far focused on this kind of promoting via song. However, I want to talk to you really today more about the longer term vision I have for a project in my area. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the YouTube channel Unheard by Freddie Sayers, but it's kind of a current affairs and politics news show, let's say, podcast, but it takes place in a cafe in central London with a live audience, and it's very informative, but also it's a place for people to get together and to bounce ideas off each other. It's a bit like it's not the same crowd, but it's like here, like Zcon. It's this kind of a thing, but it happens frequently. It happens every week or every other day. They have interesting guests, and I found that this is a very good vehicle for getting ideas out there into the world. So my short-term goal is that I'm currently remodeling part of the wine cellars in a property we have in France to create something called the Zebra Lounge. And I don't know if we can go through to the last slide on this, because is it me who does it? I don't know. Did I just skip through at the end? This is for late. Oh, there we go. Oh, I went too far. I've failed. Oh dear. Sorry. Anyway, can I go through it again? No. Okay. Anyhow, the short-term goal is to remodel these wine cellars and to create this the Zebra Lounge and the shielded pool bar, which I think that will, once ready, will be a place to hold meetups and Zcash events and other privacy as normal away from the keys meetings. The idea is to kind of have a permanent Zcash sort of home and a permanent Zcash friendly bar and restaurant, club, lounge, where people ultimately can pay their bills in Zec, and they'll get a reduced rate for paying in Zec. And maybe one day we'll only accept Zec, because I don't know about you, but I don't like using fiat money, which is being debased at a rate of 8 or 9 or 10%, or in some countries 40% per year. So this is the short-term goal. The medium-term goal will be to once the Zebra Lounge is up and running, and doing these physical events, we'll then start to use the Zebra Lounge to host an ongoing series of talks, debates, lectures, and a bit like a live supper club environment, like I described in the Unheard podcast. And we would stream this live with the live audience in the Zebra Lounge via the ambassador's reception. And I know from speaking with Ryan at the ZF AV Club that he's interested in collaborating and helping. So it's been great to be part of the community, the Zcash community, and to realize that there are people, like-minded individuals, striving to improve the world and who are willing to help each other. Maybe not for personal enrichment, but actually because people care about the project. So that was the medium-term goal. The long-term goal, ultimately, for the Zebra Lounge Club and Ambassador's Reception to become a dual physical virtual marketplace for ideas, goods, and services, for Zcashers and for privacy as normal digital nomads, businesses, artists, musicians, academics, and organizations to work at, to meet, to play, and to try to drive this positive change in the world from a really broad range of fields and industries. I think there is, however, a problem. Obviously, the chicken and the egg problem. I was talking to lots of people about this yesterday. Like, people need to have Zec in order to spend it, but they also need somewhere to spend it. How do they get it? Where do they spend it? Which do you do first? And I would like for the Zebra Lounge to and the ambassador's reception to try to help to serve as a proof of concept for this longer-term goal of building a circular Zcash economy within my community, but also within the wider world. There are various options to incentivize people to pay with Zec. For example, repurposing ambassador stipends to subsidize food and drink consumed in the Zebra Lounge. So, you know, this would be maybe let Zebra Lounge members get subsidized food rather than the ambassador having the stipend. And you can therefore incentivize people, maybe get them through their stomachs, let's say. I think yesterday Ian's talk was really inspiring and chimed exactly with many of the thoughts that I've been having. The store of value Bitcoin narrative, I think it's missing the big opportunity. I think that most people in the world don't actually have the assets for store of value to matter. I think most people are, in America, I looked up yesterday the statistic, I think it's 58% of Americans don't even have $5,000 of savings to rely on. And 42% of Americans don't even have $1,000 of savings to rely on. So if you try to convince these people that they should buy Zcash because it's a great investment and it's a store of value, who cares? Why do they care? They have no value to store. On the other hand, all people every day have to spend money to live. And so I think it's a much more compelling argument to make that this is a technology which provides a medium of exchange that all people can use, that is private and censorship resistant. And, well, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, obviously, you guys know all of this, but for me, this is more the route we need to go down. And to be honest, I have to say, it's funny, but last night we went for a meal in Barcelona, and I think I must have had a bad paella or something, because I was feeling very ill all night, and I was thinking about what I was going to say today. And then this morning, I was actually really violently ill, and while I was getting over my illness, I received a text from a friend. He's more elderly, he's a really good friend of the family, and I'd recommended that he would maybe like to join us virtually at Zcon, and so I'd sent him an invitation, and he wrote, because I mean, imagine this, I got this while I was being sick, basically, but I said to him, okay, so I invited him, and he says, hey Josh, that's my name, not Zekmek, and he says, skepticism is in my DNA, and I'm too long in the tooth not to suspect that unsolicited offers of free financial advice are a necessary preliminary to separating suckers from their savings. Were I looking to make an investment, I would wish to be cognizant of an agent's qualifications, experience, motivation, and track record. However, my reply is simply for your information and not intended to imply an interest in debating the matter. Bonne chance. So I was like, okay, well, I did reply, but very shortly, and I just said, well, I'm not trying to make you invest. That's not the point. I said to him, look, I just care about preserving democracy. I'm concerned by the potential for a dangerous slide into a technocratic authoritarianism that I do not want for my children or for yours. And I just thought that you were similarly minded. But no worries, if it doesn't interest you, that's fine, that's all good. But the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like we're all pushing a lot of the time against this very closed, unenlightened public. And when you try to convince people of something and they think you're trying to steal from them or trick them or Sam Bankman-Fried them, then of course there's resistance. And really what this person needs to understand is that this is a technology, this is not an investment opportunity. This is a technology that we are going to be able to change the world for the better with. And indeed, the people who are building it, as he says, they are exactly qualified to provide that technology. I mean, I don't know if there are people more qualified on earth to provide this technology, but unfortunately, I think that's the problem, that people don't know this, and so I think the narrative needs to be somewhat amended to reflect the reality of the situation. I liked Balaji's The Network State, and I'm interested in the potential of combining the ideas of the network state with the power of Zcash, augmented reality, and really, in the long term, what I would like to create at the Zebra Lounge is I'd like ZSA's tokenized membership, where you have a ZSA which gives you the right to privileges and, I don't know, also shows you, maybe with your ZSA, it shows on Google Maps, it'll let you see where the Zebra Lounge is. It maybe lets you see where we have pop-up events. Nobody else will know, but we will. And I was speaking to people yesterday from Kedit, and it does sound like ZSAs are coming soon. I can see I've run out of time, so I'll wrap it up. But I will say that we are hoping to begin our first events this summer at the Zebra Lounge. We're not going to be, you won't find us at the Zebra Lounge, you'll find us at scudozebrato.com, which is the Italian for shielded zebra. And I think much like the speakeasy environment that we want to create, we don't want to make it too easy for people to find the Zebra Lounge. Plus, there are some other ones, and an erotic film once called that, so we don't want people to get confused. So anyway, please look us up at scudozebrato.com, and I hope to see you there one day soon. So.
Phenomenal. I just want to add that the contributions of these ambassadors and the ones who aren't represented here also are unique and invaluable and irreplaceable, actually. And I want to extend my appreciation on behalf of ZCG and the wider community to our ambassadors for providing this value. Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Pablo, and together with Constance, we will present some of the changes required to the ORCHARD protocol to make it happen. We will talk a little bit about ZSA, motivation, then we will dive into circuit changes, and then we will discuss future plans for atomic swaps and other things to make trading more secure for the users. So why ZSA? So we have this great technology where we can transact and we can transfer value, but there are many types of value. Value can be represented as tokens, as stable coins, as NFTs, and we want to have it all. We want to use this technology to enable better value representation, have the guarantees of the Zcash blockchain, in addition, we want to allow a rich ecosystem. Okay, so what is ZSA? It's pretty straightforward. It gives you the ability to issue assets, to transfer those assets, and finally, to burn them. So there are many properties for the issuance. The important thing, it is permissionless, same as regular Zcash transfer. Anyone can come and issue assets. For transfer, we have fully shielded transfers, same as regular Zcash transactions. And for burn, we need the burn functionality to enable bridging. So we discussed the changes to the protocol in many different occasions. I just quickly remind us the important things that we need to better understand the circuit changes. So what we see here is the original value commitment, homomorphic commitment, part of the ORCHARD protocol. What we did, we added another parameter to represent the type of asset. Instead of using a constant point as we did, as was done in the ORCHARD protocol, we now have a variable point to represent the asset base. For node commitment, if asset base is native, meaning if we want to transfer native ZEC, the commitment remains the same as with the ORCHARD protocol. For the same nodes, we change the personalization and we concatenate the bit representation of the asset base at the end. So split nodes. In the ORCHARD protocol, we have the notion of dummy nodes. Here we added something that's called split node, and the idea is to make sure that the input nodes were properly issued. Okay, now I would like to ask Constance to tell us a little bit about the circuit changes required.
Thanks, Pablo. So I will present the circuit changes for Zcash. When we are implementing a new feature in a cryptocurrency such as Zcash, what are the main challenges? Users would like two things, security and speed. Security is of utmost importance, because without security, attackers could steal money. And speed is also really important, because if a transaction is too slow to be validated, user would like to use another cryptocurrency. When I have to implement a big feature, such as the ZSA protocol in a software, I like starting by visualizing all modifications that I have to implement in order to split the work in some small steps. As explained by Pablo, we updated some equation. So now in the value commitment, we have the asset. For not commitment, we have one equation for ZEC and another equation for the SA. And we introduced the notion of split not with a new equation for split not for the value on the nullifier. To be able to evaluate those new equations, we need some new private inputs, witnesses. We need the asset to evaluate value on not commitment. We need a Boolean variable.
Zcash ecosystem, and maybe we'll just dive right in and do some quick intros. The ambassador talk that was just before us, you guys were able to meet Michael and Madison, and maybe we'll go down the line and give some quick intros and talk about what you do in the Zcash ecosystem.
Yeah.
Joel.
So, hey, I'm Joel Valenzuela. I've been involved in crypto for about 10 years, but living off of it entirely since 2015. And I run the Zcash podcast, which is a monthly podcast on my channel, Digital Cash Network. And I do some work for ZecHub, making some kind of, if you've seen that video circulating, if you haven't seen it, you probably should. The video circulating around about comparing the different privacy models. That was something I got done. And so, yeah, I'm here to, to learn a lot more about the community and get further involved and kind of take that outsider perspective in and, hopefully get a lot done.
Great. Thanks, Joel.
I am Ryan Taylor. I'm the organizer of the Zcash Foundation Audio Visual Club. And my involvement in Zcon has previously always been running the live stream and helping with the AV needs. And this year, because we just announced the ZFAV Club back in January, we have been let loose and we're having fun filming and doing interviews and collaborating with all the community members that are here.
Thanks, Ryan.
Madison. I work full-time at Edge, and I'm a global Zcash ambassador based in San Diego. Edge is a self-custody, no KYC, multi-asset exchange platform. So as you can tell, there's a lot of similarities within the ethos of Zcash and Edge. And so, yeah, I have this super cool crossover of both interest and passion in what I do professionally.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm from Zcash Brazil. I'm the ambassador and member of the ZecHub DAO as well. So yes, this is my Zcash site and contribute to Zcash ecosystem as well as a whole.
Thanks, Mike.
Hi, I'm Jason, and I work on ZecHub, and I'm a core contributor on ZecHub, and I also do the Arborist development call updates.
Great, thank you. So yeah, we have some representation here from a lot of what I would call like the little sub-communities inside of the Zcash community at large. And I thought maybe we could start with touching on the collaboration that's happening between like ZecHub, the AV Club, and the Ambassador Program. And we see each other a lot virtually, and it's really nice to be here in person. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the Zcash Grants Committee for funding. A lot of this stuff stems from that and the foundation, and bringing us all here together today. And I just thought maybe first, whoever wants to jump in and talk about, how we all these different niche communities, sub-communities get together virtually and collaborate to grow the Zcash ecosystem.
Yeah, I will happily chime in on that. I think something that was super cool when I became an ambassador is I was instantly injected into this community of Zcashers. I know that if I need anything AV related, I can call on the ZFAV team. If I have any questions, I can just tap into the Signal channel with the ambassadors or the community, and every single tweet that I throw out, it's just like so many Zcash people, flock to it. And I think the community is super strong, and something that I've experienced personally is just so much support. I think I can really appreciate the network that this team has worked so hard to build. It's awesome.
Yeah, I can definitely echo that. It's the Zcash community, the communities that we're seeing within Zcash are very available and very diverse in their interests and their fields of expertise. And this is encouraging the collaboration that we're seeing, and it's really comes down to supporting each other and caring about each other and collaborating and creating a space for each other. And that's happened in the Zcash community organically from a grassroots level. And it's just, it's supported by ZCG, definitely, and the Zcash Foundation as well. And they've created this, not just the technology that the DCC created, but also the opportunity for all of these different communities and individuals to come into the Zcash community and collaborate in a way that they're interested in. And there's a support structure, not only financial, but also compassion.
Yeah. Yes.
Could I give like a good example?
Sure.
There's several examples.
Please.
Like, very long list. But ZChub works very closely with the global ambassadors because we allow people to make translations of newsletters and stuff. So, for example, Zcash Brazil has every week since ZChub has been created made a translation of the weekly ecosystem newsletter. So the whole Brazilian community can be informed of what's happening and feel part of something greater. And that's not just in Brazil. It's like RU Zcash. So there's another ambassador, and there's Oleg, who does the Italian newsletter. And so there's a lot of collaboration with ambassadors, and with the ZFAV club as well. Like 2 weeks ago, Ryan was like, your videos are sounding like slightly low volume. and so I was like, yeah, I don't know what to do. So he spent the time and he learned this new program, and he came back to me and he was like, yeah, you need to, in fact, he hosted like a workshop thing, and he said, yeah, you need to do this with the volume and all of that. And I think it's not just me, but it's also everyone within the ZChub community who works with the ambassadors and with the AV club as well.
Yeah, I have some insights. We know that to create some communities in hard times, like bear market is hard, and we need to avoid bad actors, haters, and start to building what you believe. And it's like I love to see like ZChub and other ambassadors and keep going and don't listen like one people that haven't created anything. So you need to believe in that. And this collaboration is essential for growing the Zcash community in my guess.
Yeah. Great. Joel,
Yeah, I've noticed it was kind of funny because I kind of got interested in Zcash more deeply in the past year or so, and that kind of prompted me to look for ways of getting involved. And the reason I started the Zcash podcast was half because there was a request for proposal out there, but half was because I wanted to learn more about Zcash. I wanted to get deep, and I thought the only way I get deep is by dedicating a piece of my time to it. And in the beginning, I was a little nervous since, of course, one of the most, I would say annoying, but one of the more work-intensive parts about running my channel has always been scheduling, because then, have a weekly new show, have to have a different guest on every time, do interviews, all this, and so I was kind of worried that I wouldn't have enough people to talk to in the Zcash community, because I thought, well, I kind of know Zuko and I know a couple others, and then who else do I talk to? And then surprisingly, there's so many different little groups in the Zcash community that just did not know existed. Like, just I'm uncovering, oh, there's a new project here, there's a new project there, there's a million different little projects all over the place. Yeah. And I think that it kind of, if you kind of, I guess, go on like crypto Twitter or whatever, for the most part, you don't see a lot of that in the mainstream. You don't see a lot of like Zcash representation in like the mainstream dialogues going out there. But then once you start following just a couple people poking, you start seeing little shields pop up and, you know, all over the place. You start to like see there's like the Zcash community is it's a little quiet, but very present, very there. And that's kind of something that surprised me. It's just like almost like an underground resistance, right? Just a bunch of little groups, cells popping up here and there, and it's been kind of cool. Yeah, and just to expand on that a little bit, with all these, as you're calling them, cells or sub communities, I think I called them earlier. It's just really great that they start in their own little bubbles, and then because like crypto Twitter or Discord or the forum, you're able to get together, collaborate, and we all join each other's weekly meetups and are able to talk and move projects forward, and it's just been really great. So maybe we can switch to talking about, Madison touched on this, you know, you called yourself a community and meetup maximalist, and your in-person meetups have been amazing to follow. And, you know, here today at Zcon4, it's just been, this week, it's been really great to get together in person. And so I thought we could talk a little bit about the value of meeting up in person, in addition to, you know, what we do when we're all not together digitally.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's invaluable to meet in person. Something that I think has really helped me is being a part of so many different groups. Like I mentioned, not necessarily a maximalist in anything. I don't want to cut myself off from a conversation that I can have with maybe someone who lives and breathes ETH, because, you know, they're into crypto, they're into the technology. Your next conversation with that person might be a great opportunity to talk to them about Zcash. And so I think it's good to cast a wide net and meet different people from different groups and interests, because yeah, you never know when the opportunity is going to present itself. Another cool thing is like, you know, I have a Zcasher watching my cats right now, and I'm paying him in Zcash. I have a community around me that I can really count on for things that I need. House sitting, you know, helping out at meetups. It's so nice. You know, we're in a digital world, and that human connection is just so important.
Yeah. Michael, maybe you could talk about the value of Zcon Voices, and you know, you touched on that as well during the lightning talk about how you know you reached out, you were able to help grow the community and bring a bunch of projects together that maybe hadn't been together in person before, and then we're able to at Zcon Voices.
Yeah, like she said, it's a valuable experience to bring more people to close, and then keep the collaboration with heads of another projects in Brazil, because Brazil is so, like, people is so afraid for most of things, you know, like it's technology or any innovation, people is like, oh, maybe it's scam or something like that. So when you bring people for the same space and teach them and talk about this and that and the uses for that, it was a great experience. This was my first event, so this very challenges for me. You are there, so it was amazing. Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe Ryan, same question. I know you've been involved with all the Zcons from zero, and you know, maybe touch on some of that. And
yeah, definitely. in-person events, for all of the reasons that Madison and Michael just said, are vital to any community, I think. And like, we live in an online world. This is fine. We have Discord, we've got Twitter, we've got ways to communicate. We also have massive amount of scams and mistrust. And to Michael's point, when we meet in person and we have a chance to talk about this stuff, if someone new is coming into the community, they can feel comfortable trusting someone who they're talking to, who they're spending days with. And at a purpose-designed event, like at any Zcon, really, then you have the experts in the various fields able to explain to people and meet them where they are in a way that they understand and they feel comfortable then joining into the community. And hopefully they're then motivated to bring their own skill sets, their own curiosity, and collaborate with us from there.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes with Zcon4 specifically, this was the first Zcon that I was not actually able to attend in person. But I was able to facilitate the live streaming that Dan and Vito helmed, and it was their first live stream. It was their first time meeting, and I sent Dan down there with his laptop and OBS and a little bit of training, and then he shows up and puts Vito on the camera, and they nailed it. It was really an amazing event to watch, and I was just there to support them.
Yeah, that's a great example, and I don't know if I can't see if Vito's out here, but there he is. Yeah, it was really amazing to go down there and work. He was instrumental in putting on Zcon Voices, and it's just another example of meeting digitally first and then solidifying that relationship in person, and then continuing to be able to work together in between, and then get back together here today and work on stuff. Yeah. So, Jason, maybe we can give just an update about some community building efforts going on in ZecHub, and what ZecHub does to help grow the Zcash community and help get people involved.
Community building, it's all community building. So like the bounty program that ZecHub runs, we invite people to offer their services so they can make design pieces for ZecHub. And the way we do it is we create tasks. So we'll say, we'll need something such as like a poster. We're doing a promotional post and we'd like you to make a poster. And here is a bounty of 0.75 Zec who is willing to do that. And anyone in the world can join the community. So you can go to dwork.zechub.xyz and you can find the tasks there. And if you want to make a newsletter, for example, or if you want to, if you have an idea for your own thing that you think will benefit Zcash, you can come to us in the Discord, which is the Zcash Global Discord. If you're not in it, you should probably join it immediately. And yeah, so there's the bounty program, and there is also our efforts, like with Joel. We've been working with him. He's been making videos for us. And we've also managed to collaborate with outside parties. So it's not just within the Zcash community, but there's people from Decred who are now interested in Zcash. And there are Zcashers who are, I think, through ZecHub, beginning to use other blockchain-related software, like messenger services and such. And yeah, it's like, for example, the NFT that ZecHub's just created is on Avalanche, because there's the Zavax bridge from Zcash to Avalanche. And we said, that's great, but do Zcashers really know how to use Avalanche? And so we put the NFT on Avalanche. And if you're willing, you can turn on the GPS on your phone, and we've done like a special thing. So you can go to zcon4.zechub.xyz, and we have 5 NFTs that you can claim if you're within 2 miles of this conference. So once you do that, you'll get access to like a magazine and a bunch of extra stuff. So the people in this conference room, if we're talking about community building, you can participate in this extras program, and you can say if it's good or if it's bad. And yeah.
Thank you. And you mentioned, that ZecHub, the community lives inside, or at least partially inside of the Zcash Global Discord, which, as Michael touched on earlier, was originally the Zcash Latin American Discord and is now Zcash Global. And I think that's just another great example of, this cross-community collaboration. You have, instead of having it all be splintered in certain ways, you have this one Zcash Global Discord, you have lots of the ambassadors involved in there, you have all these different languages, and ZecHub ends up living inside of there and is able to participate and follow along inside that main Discord. Yeah. Maybe Ryan, just a couple, some updates similar to what Jason gave about ZecHub, just AV Club stuff and what we got going on. And
yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, I'm giving a presentation tomorrow about the AV Club and what the ZFAV Club and what we've been doing for the last 6 months, for the first 6 months of the club. So be sure to catch that for the big picture, where I'll take 30 minutes to say it, but here's the 1-minute version. We have our main center for information is all on Free to Z at ZFAV Club. And from there, you can find links to our Discord, which is where most of our conversations happen, most of our collaborations happen. We have a weekly meeting on Tuesdays and weekly meetup or a weekly workshop on Wednesdays. And those are at 1700 UTC. Those are open to anyone. And my idea there is just to create space where people can come in and ask questions and find out what we're doing and contribute in their own way, to troubleshoot, to break things, to learn audio levels or OBS and broadcasting, and as well as translations. And we're doing a lot of work on human language translations as well, as a way to collaborate with broader communities, with more communities, because I think that if we're talking about building community in a global space, then human languages is where we need to start.
Great. So I was able to pull some questions from Huva in the forum, and since the talk right before us was about the ambassador program, somebody asked about what innovative ideas could help Zcash community ambassadors increase their local community participation. Maybe we'll start with Madison.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned in my last talk, I feel super blessed to be able to kind of run with my crazy ideas. And yeah, examples of something I've done, I chatted about is my privacy and pottery meetup. So this one's a cool one because it's a 3-part series, kind of designed that way because you get people in the first at the first meetup, they make their pottery, I go fire it, and then they come back and they paint their pottery, and then I fire it, and then they come back and then they have to get their pottery. So this is a cool way to kind of keep people coming back. Yeah, making series. I've hosted the Zcash media team, and I'm getting a bunch of ideas just from this conference. Like I think I might host a meetup where I show some of these talks. So yeah, I think people really appreciate the innovative meetups in particular. You could only go to so many meetups where you sit there and listen to a speaker talk. And so they appreciate kind of getting out of their normal flow. And so I would definitely encourage you to get creative and see where it gets you, because it's my members, my little community that I've created, they seem to appreciate. Yeah.
That's good advice. Yeah. And at the end of your talk earlier, you were mentioning, that other ambassadors can reach out to you for advice if looking for where to get started. And I think that's really important that people reach out and we can all help each other figure out ways to get more meetups going in all the different locations. And
yeah, there's systems that make things easier. And so, yeah, super happy to discuss event coordination with anybody.
Yeah, one thing I like, it's bounties or little incentives for the community, because we can reach more people and bring more talents as well with little things. And like Jason said about Zcash Hub, it's empower someone that lives in China or whatever. It's can work and earn Zcash. So it's better earn than buy, for example. Like Ian gave a great talk yesterday about that. So I work in the DAO before, so before Zcash, so I know how this mechanism works. So it's really important for any community to keep the community, the member incentivized and try to bring them, even developers and marketing and any artists, because every people has some talent, but maybe sometimes they don't know they have. So that's important, and that's why we are open for everyone in the Discord for many languages. Yeah, I think it's great. And I talk about the self-funding. It's very important for Zcash ambassadors program and for all Zcash ecosystem. And because Zcash uses Zcash for payments, so it's autonomous system. So you have a longevity for build stuff and learn quickly. It's like a triple L. You listen, look, and learn.
Yeah.
So you can interact more quickly to like see the market and like get some technology that was born in now, so you can try that. But it's wrong, you can go back and try again.
Yeah.
So this is magic superpower, Yeah, I think you need to keep that and help ambassadors to grow more. I think ZF did a decision. So this we are here is they are collecting fruits because they made one decision years ago. I don't know at the time exactly, but here, if we need to create like these programs and at scale, and don't need too much like Zach to send for people, but you need to keep like the ball rolling.
That's good advice. Yeah. So let's see. We had some other questions. I think Joel, you mentioned, you've been so involved in multiple crypto communities for a long time and living on crypto, and I think you're very unique in that way. And since you've been involved in Zcash more this year specifically, what advice would you give to other people or even to current Zcash community members to bring in other folks like yourself who maybe started in other communities but are starting to dip their toes in more to get involved in the Zcash community?
Yeah, well, from my perspective, so I've been paying attention to Zcash for a very long time. I've been kind of interested in the privacy aspect of crypto since day one, until I learned Bitcoin didn't really have any, and then I started looking at other things. And I, of course, knew about Zcash. In fact, one of my friends, I witnessed him probably doing the first in-person shielded transaction ever. I don't know if it's necessarily, but he bought something from a shop using the command line wallet. Took 10 minutes to generate. It was, awful and amazing at the same time. And so that taught me two things. One, this is cool technology people are excited about, but two, this is not ready. Like, it's not something you use. And a lot of mobile wallets especially had issues that I thought were like structural, being able to communicate with nodes and basically having relatively trust minimized privacy on mobile devices wasn't really a thing. And then when I first saw that Zcash had kind of solved that, that's when I paid attention. And so I guess the lesson in that is it has to kind of be real for people. And the fact that you can just, do what Zuko loves to do, run around, hey, here, install this wallet, and we'll send you some. The fact that you can do that makes it much more real, and it's something that actually kind of works, real goods and services. And it's kind of funny because one of the things I think the Zcash world needs to work more on is using it as a currency. And of course, big surprise coming from me, I'm saying this stuff, but and getting it more usable in places. And so, like, for example, I unfortunately could not pay for my flight out here in Zcash, even though I got the scholarship. in Zec to be able to do it. And some of the all the major travel sites don't accept that. And it would be a lot better if you could do something like that. Or, you know, it is good. I have used Flexa before, which of course, might have said your famous video of Dunkin' Donuts with the lady freaking out. Still one of my favorites. And yes, I did, of course, buy something from Dunkin'. Unfortunately, I have a Graphene OS phone, so it doesn't work on that one. I'd use my Google phone for that. But I guess just what really hits home for people is when it's something real. It's not just, oh, you can play around with this nerdy privacy encryption thingy. It's like, you can do this to buy that. Like, look, and you did it privately, just like cash. It's digital cash now. And I think that's a great way of bringing people in, is making it like real for their lives, to where it's not just, oh, this is I live my normal life. I do swipey with the slavey bank card here. And then I just play around with my nerdy friends over here. It's like, no, it's bridging that to the real world, gets beyond, you know, just a smaller community of people, and brings privacy to like reality.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. So some other questions. This was from the forum. I believe it was from G Guy. Given the dynamic nature of the Zcash ecosystem, where should we be focusing our efforts in terms of growth, and which community needs to be nurtured and expanded upon to achieve the optimum level of contribution to the overall Zcash mission? Anybody want to jump in? I know that was a long one. I could repeat it if anybody needs to.
Zec Hub.
I'll go
I
second.
think it should be probably Zec Hub. We allow people to make contributions, and like, you should understand that most of what Zec Hub produces, all of the educational content, all of the media stuff, it doesn't come from core contributors. It actually comes from people everywhere. Some of them are just unknown people. And so we have a fairly limited capacity. We actually needed to limit. We were getting so many people coming and like earning Zec, we figured that like our treasury wasn't sustainable in the way. So we had to be like, we actually have to like rate limit the amount of tasks that we're able to offer people. And so we've been having like people joining all the time, and I feel that Zec Hub really will be able to allow Zcash to be used as real-world payments for actual content and for like an understanding. So it's not just content. I think it's like actually a real understanding of Zcash being used as not just private payment, but a way to earn money for many people. And yeah, I think if we allow people to experience that, it's actually a very powerful thing.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to touch on that, where we should be focusing as far as in terms of growth?
Yeah, one thing I noticed is I don't think that the unique selling proposition of Zcash has been kind of out there enough in the crypto world. And I mean, I think the whole ideas about privacy are just, they're very theoretical, right? And so people know, oh, Zcash privacy, yeah, that's it. But like a lot of people just say, well, just use the Lightning Network if you want privacy. And like, okay, there's a lot wrong with that. Or they just say, oh, if you just join Bitcoin through this thing, then it's just perfectly this. Or then you have the Litecoin people chiming in, Mimble, that's all it'll work. And just there's so much work that has been, so many resources have been put in with Zcash specifically on just the tech, on just making the most rock solid, literally there is no second best, right? In terms of getting like the absolute privacy right. But then, if a shielded transaction is untraceable, but no one knows it, is it really untraceable? or more importantly, I do think there's a lot of educational gaps in the rest of the space on like why Zcash over something else, because people, especially the issue of privacy, people have all kinds of misconceptions, and I feel like a lot of times those misconceptions go completely unaddressed, or not really countered. Some communities in particular kind of promote misconceptions, and just it's quiet about that. No, we're we're busily building our own little world. But at some point, I think that once you kind of get that education out there, I think that you start to get people to see like, okay, all the stuff that I was thinking I was doing with other things, I have a reason now to consider, using Zcash instead of a plethora of other options, and just making that thing down about like why Zcash, and why Zcash is very clear in a world where it's the only cryptocurrency that exists. That's very clear. I think that a lot of us here have done a lot of communication on that about, privacy is normal and this is good. But as far as like, all right, privacy is normal, I'm just going to use Mimblewimble. It's like that next step of that conversation, I think, needs to be had out in a very honest and accurate way that's also professional and like not confrontational.
Yeah.
Just like it's like my view, just to simplify this, is like we have privacy, and then we have like need to fill many gaps here, and then people. Like the hard party, we already have like the code, the trust setup was exchanged last year. So I think we have many cases for the technology beyond the like digital private cash. We have like for cash, we have offshore money. We have like IDs, like for entering some shows, like you need to prove some information, but your ID has your parent's name, etc. So the technology solve that problem. So you need to fill the gap between privacy and people, and create some and many programs or many stuff in education and search. For example, Zcash Hub, it's doing amazing about the search of information for Zcash in general. So yeah, I think we need to create like many small things to reach big things.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get stuck in the echo chamber of Zcash. Like I mentioned, Zcash community is so strong. I'll put a tweet out, and the community is there, and they respond. And you could stop there. That's validating. It's nice to get a bunch of responses and stuff, but you're still in the echo chamber, like Joel mentioned. He's been in the space for so long. And then when he got into the Zcash ecosystem, he realized how wide it really is, but it wasn't until you got in, until you really felt that. And so I think just maybe starting there, keeping that in mind, that, there is a bit of an echo chamber, and there is a lot of validation in that echo chamber, and we all have similar values. But finding a way to get out of that, and making a concerted effort to get out of that, I think is important.
Yeah, definitely. I think we talk a lot about privacy, and privacy is awesome, but I want to mention that publicity is also awesome and necessary. And to that point, like I would want to say that we need to focus on one community specifically. I think we need calendars. That's like, we had ZFAV Club has a calendar now on the Zec Hub wiki that Squirrel was awesome enough to set up for us. And on the Zcash dashboard designed by Alpha Day, there we can feed a community calendar there with RSS feeds from any calendar that anyone has for their own community and their own project. And by publicizing these events that we're doing, and these meetups online and in person, then we can really see some major community growth come from that, and involvement.
Yeah, I think that's important. And that's another example of, the cross collaboration between, so Alpha Day was a grant that was approved by ZCG, and I believe his name is Mike. I can't remember his handle, but
hi, Mike.
Yeah, hi, Mike. And but he joins our AV Club meetups, right? And he's just super open to collaborating with us. We'll give him feedback. We'll have the dashboard open, and we'll be going over things like a calendar and whatnot. And then, just on the calendar stuff, because of all this these sub communities, and we have everybody's doing their own thing, and you have Zec Hub events and ZFAV Club events, and even meetups, in-person meetups. If we had one calendar where everybody can jump in, find out exactly what's going on, here's where you get pointed to, you can figure out, okay, I'm free and I'm able to join this when I can. So I think, yeah, the work that's been done there and continuing to move that forward and getting other of these sub communities participating and putting in their events into that calendar should make it easier for helping others find out how they can get involved and when to get involved. Yeah. So we're coming up on time. If anybody has any final thoughts about growing the Zcash community, we can go with that, or catch up on time, and we'll jump into the next talk. So
Maybe
Yeah.
ignore the noise and keep building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Zcash is the best privacy tech in the market. So we need to give this more value. And yeah, it's avoid like haters, etc., and just keep focused on that mission that and bring people more freedom and privacy because they need.
Great. Well, let's end it there. I really appreciate you guys joining me up here, and thank you for everybody being in here, and thank you for those listening online.
Thank you, Dan. Oh, that didn't hurt at all.
The third attempt to solve this is, let's say I am a significant trader and I want to trade significant value. I will have some kind of switch to allow synchronous operations. Up until this point, everything was done asynchronously. Party A sends the order and forgets, basically. He can go out and take a flight, and at the end of the flight, either this will be fulfilled or not. There is no synchronous operations up until this point. So let's say we have like serious players in the market. We can allow them to do synchronous operations. If a matcher sees that he has this swap order and same ratio, but a smaller order, he will ping party A, okay, prepare an appropriate swap order with these values. But then party A needs to be constantly online to be able to respond to the matcher's request for a counterparty swap. The traders should have the ability to respond to synchronous operations, but this is not mandatory. If I just want to swap something like $5, I don't need to be online all the time. I can just send my swap order and be gone. Okay, so we conclude with the fact that we need to analyze the applications. Sure, we can do some protocol changes, but
yeah, let's see. What do we got here?
Got our clicker here, so we're good.
Yeah, I'm Skylar. We got
Jonathan
here. Good to see y'all. Yeah, so what's the idea from the beginning? Everyone kind of knows the problems of big tech. We're just listening to a podcast about this stuff. We made up this little T3C3 thing, which they kind of come in pairs. They're taking, they're confiscating, they're tracking, they're censoring, they're twisting, they're controlling. And you don't need to kind of go into the details there. We can talk about it later if anyone wants to, talk about specifics. But kind of had this, Zcash. It's resistant to these things that big tech is doing to us. So, let's do something about these problems. Let's empower to kind of make their own way. And yes, so philosophy-wise, let's put something out there and see what people think of it, see how people use it, take feedback, respect the users. So I have this kind of extreme programming XP kind of background, and our strength is kind of we can release software, we can change the software, we can test the software, and we can get new features and change it. So we're just going to iterate and see where it goes, and kind of have these core principles, like we're going to respect the user's privacy to the utmost extent. We're going to try to do DKYC, so we don't even require email verification. So maybe people can opt into some things, but by default, we just completely are 100% private. We don't have ads. And some sites are really annoying. They have these walled gardens, so you can't get your content back off, and you can't fully interact unless you got to log in, and they don't want you to leave the site. You can't just go connect on Signal with people. So we have this kind of philosophy that we're going to allow people as much freedom as allowed by the law. So there's a few things. We're a U.S. corporation, so to the extent of the law, we're going to allow free speech, for instance. And we kind of flip it where I think big tech, a lot of times, they want to know everything about you and you have no privacy, but then they're not transparent about what they're doing. So we want to kind of flip that where we can show you the algorithm, and the internal workings of our software can be transparent, even maybe in the future open source, whereas the user can be as private and as free as possible. And yeah, so basically the opposite of the T3C3. Yeah, and so there's a lot of features. It kind of started out just maybe people want to post a page and they can have some content and at least they can put it there and they can put a Zcash address and raise some money. And it kind of started there, but all kinds of features come up right away. You want images and then, let's upload the images and might as well have videos and you want to embed and kind of LaTeX math is one of my features. So I don't know if anyone's actually cared about that. That was me. I was the user. I was like, yeah, LaTeX code. Yeah, and then I didn't really know people were going to be wanting to kind of have a profile. Like I started out and, maybe people just want to have like a help me, send me, whatever they want to do. But no, people want to kind of link it to who they are and build, multiple pages under a profile. So that started to happen. Live streaming seemed like a good idea, and people are using it for all kinds of things, connecting with their communities. There's music lessons. There's all kinds of stuff going on with live streaming. I actually use it to call my wife back home, which is actually works better than Verizon. We weren't supposed to mention any names or whatever, but we did some AI features. So we have kind of, we can detect spam and we have a chat bot and we have kind of a cool thing where I always kind of think in English. I speak Spanish okay and Portuguese less okay, but so I read somebody's page and, say Spanish or Portuguese, but I can make my comment and I can get like a GPT, like translate to Spanish. So we're kind of building some of these kind of cool features. I think series came up pretty recently. A lot of content serialized. You have a podcast, and you want to have the whole thing. You have a comic book or serialized prose. So there's a lessons, and yeah. So then we have subscriptions and donations, so you want to get notifications. So all this kind of stuff just grew up organically. And, you want to classify the content. So, there's poetry versus, news about Zcash versus, Spanish election news or something like that. So we kind of have categorization and tags. And then we have this little in-app currency called Tuesdays, which kind of underpins the whole thing by kind of preventing spam and abuse. So I kind of think of it as a granular invite and kind of it creates like a web of trust. So, you can earn Tuesdays, you can get subscriptions, you can kind of build them up and then you can give them to your friends. And then, once you have enough, you can completely use everything. But like initially, you only get a few, so you could try things out, but you have to either get granted or know somebody to kind of, make full use, because we can't, a lot of this stuff does actually kind of cost money, so we can't just let people, abuse it. So yeah, throw it to Jonathan to kind of tell us about what actually happened.
Yeah, so when we came up with the title for this talk, it was Caterpillar to Butterfly. And what does that mean? Well, we're talking about the evolution of Free2Z over the last year from sort of its initial proof of concept to now being this vibrant platform where we have thousands of Z pages and all these creators who are using it every day to kind of live their dreams. And it was kind of funny when we were initially coming up with a name for this application. We thought maybe, well, Skylar thought maybe Go Fund Yourself would be a good name.
Free to give.
Right, free to give, yeah. Go fund yourself, free to give. But the concept was we're really unlocking the power of Zcash to make true peer-to-peer payments. So what that means is there's no intermediaries. So, it's kind of like real internet digital cash. And we combine that with content and make it as easy as used for people to actually make payments to others. So that's been used for all kinds of things. We've had, folks who have really terrible medical situations, might have cancer, they've raised money, other folks for dental treatments. I mean, it's really all over the map. But what I want to talk about here let's focus on some of the creators. And a number of these creators have actually used the site themselves to raise funds, to get the tools that they need to produce content and to contribute. So the first one I wanted to point out was Roosevelt Ordonez, who's actually right here. Roosevelt. So yeah, wave to the crowd. But Roosevelt has just incredible talent, lots of skills, but he was missing a decent computer to actually be able to generate content. So he had a campaign on Free to Z, which was successful. May have been a visit from the 5Zec Bandit, but yeah, his campaign was successful, and since then he's been just this incredible part of the Zcash community in general, and also generating content on Free to Z. And I wanted to talk also about Aura, who's also here today. So when we started this out, we didn't realize the importance of community. And one of the most surprising things is how this big community has kind of grown up around Free to Z. And I think one of our key principles is actually the principle of community. There's a lot of people from Venezuela on the site, so they taught me a word, bochinche, which just kind of means everybody together. So that I think that's the sort of defining characteristic of Free to Z is it's like everybody together, producing content, you know, unlocking the power of Zcash, making payments back and forth, and just really...
Say it one more time.
Bochinche.
Bochinche.
That's the word right there, yeah. So that we're about the bochinche. We're about this community building. So Aura has been a huge part of that. And then wanted to talk about some of the new features. So as Skylar was talking about, serializing content is a big thing. And the person who's really taken this as far as possible is Ender, who has this really awesome kind of like cypherpunk series, Zcash Crusader, which I encourage you all to check out. Actually, ironically, while he was starting on this, his computer broke down. So he ended up using Free to Z to generate funds to continue developing this series, and was able to get the tools that he needed. So really exciting there. And we're not just about nerd stuff, right? Like beyond, you know, tech, computers, programming, we also have serious literature, and we even have poetry on the site. And Cafe Poesia has been publishing a ton of erotic poetry lately. So yeah, it just shows that there's all kinds of different art being produced on Free to Z. Speaking of other artists, there's Andres Palmar, who is, in one word, a virtuoso. He is a mandolin player, among other things, and he is just an incredible musician, and has given master workshops in a number of different countries, currently based out of Mexico. So thinking about next Zcon in Mexico, Andres, I'm sure would encourage that.
You can do live music lessons from Andres and pay him in Zcash. So
yeah,
I'm up on there.
That is what
Free to Z.
This is one of the first freelancing opportunities on Free to Z. You can actually take lessons from Andres. So I highly recommend if anyone wants to learn mandolin or other stringed instruments or music theory. Yeah, he's definitely your guy. Yeah, and I want to talk about Crypto Nativa. We don't only have art and sort of fiction content. There's also serious legal analysis going on Free to Z. So Crypto Nativa is a lawyer. She's here right now, and she has been publishing very detailed and sort of serious analysis of privacy rights and human rights on Free to Z. And then there's Alberdione, who rates hard-hitting analysis of the news with a focus on blockchain, especially. So yeah, another just great resource. And there are too many other creators on Free to Z to mention today, but yeah, just a great list here. So I encourage you all to check out their pages. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about some future opportunities. So tell us about the global freelancing, Skylar.
Yeah, so I mean, something that kind of emerged is that there's these like vast income disparities between different countries, and so you know, I kind of think if you're in the Bay Area or New York and you make 6 figures, you know, are you going to post a Zcash address? You know, maybe not. Maybe it's more attractive and more, you know, competitive with different, you know, other situations and currencies. So, you know, I got to thinking more about this freelancing opportunity and just kind of like making business connections across the globe. And I think the good news is there's a pretty clear path for Zcash to gain a lot of traction and price-wise gain a lot of traction, because as more people are willing to work for Zcash, more people are hiring with Zcash. If it's kind of a known thing, we can introduce more people to Zcash. And I think initially, like a lot of times, someone's going to want to work, get the Zcash and convert it to local currency. But like once people experience that, and if we can like close the gap and make that very easy so people have a really good experience. They're like, oh, I'll try Zcash. I heard it works. I can work for it. Oh, look, I got money. Oh, I can pay my bills. So that's cool. But as as prosperity increases, once you know that that's possible, and you see the power of it, you're going to end up saving in Zcash. And, people who are hiring might think, we better go ahead and get some more Zcash because we want to hire more people. We have a big project coming up. So I think I think the numbers are insane there, actually. Like if you think of one person, there might be $50,000, I think is a low, but there's like this certain amount of disparity between, US and another country, say. And that's just one person is like 50,000, say, per year of economic possibility there. And so, times that by 1,000, it's 50 million a year, for 1,000 people. And so if you say Zcash at 1,000, that's $21 billion. You do the math, it's in the order of magnitude of 1 million people. So if we have kind of a economy of 1 million people who are willing to work for Zcash, and we have a nice slick wallet, and we have liquidity, and it's like working on both sides, I think really I think we can get a lot of traction with like fewer people than you might expect. So I like to advocate this as kind of the way forward in Zcash adoption. That makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, I think if you need to hire somebody and you have Zcash, I encourage you to make a page. And likewise, if you have skills and you're willing to work for Zcash, I encourage you to make a page on Free2Z. And yeah, connect with people, because those connections are also going to strengthen, these small businesses and your startup. And as like, it's going to grow on both sides, So I think, I encourage everyone to try it out, and let's experiment with that case, because I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah. Speaking of potential, so free speech is a major issue, and we see an opportunity with free speech broadcasting. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So this is a slide about social media censorship, and as you see, the first bar there is India, then after that is the United States, and this is these are basically videos being taken down from YouTube. So there's beyond just straight, the removal of controversial content on YouTube and other streaming platforms. We also have a type of softer censorship, which is censorship by demonetization. So there's some major content producers, like the man on this slide is Julio Astilleros, who's a renowned Mexican journalist. And he's sometimes will be on the air, on live, and he will note the moment at which YouTube has taken away his ability to monetize his content. So this is a problem for serious journalists and for all kinds of content producers. And currently there's no easy solution for this. The demonetization is being done by kind of these black box machine learning algorithms. And it's having, at this point, a chilling effect on free speech. So where does Free2Z come in? We see Free2Z as expanding and becoming a free speech repository. So as a content creator, you can initiate your content on Free2Z and make that kind of like the initial point. And then later on, we'll offer the ability to restream on all of these other networks and platforms. And so obviously we're not going to allow any content that's illegal or dangerous, but we will allow up to the limits of the law. And right now there's a ton of content that is not anywhere close to being illegal that's being demonetized and even outright censored on major social media platforms. So we see this Free2Z as being the new source of origin for free speech content. And back to monetization with Zcash. So Free2Z allows content creators to monetize their content, and they do it in a way that is truly peer-to-peer. So I think frequently when people think of peer-to-peer, they're just meaning like, oh, it was just super easy to make a payment, right? That's peer-to-peer. That's not true peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer means that it's literally going from, like in the case of Zcash, your Z address to someone else's. There's no intermediary. And that's what we have with Free2Z. It's actual true peer-to-peer. And the exciting thing about that is it means you don't need, for instance, to sacrifice your privacy when you're trying to tip a content creator or support someone who you believe in. We are able to respect and maintain your privacy even while you're making these donations and supporting content creators. So that's kind of like one of the most exciting things about our platform. All right, over the past year, Free2Z has developed from its initial stages as a POC into a vibrant and growing community, the Bochinche, as we were talking about. And we're seeing now that content creators are using their Zcash-enabled pages in all sorts of creative and exciting ways, from producing true art, poetry, music, live streaming music, to serious legal analysis, to blockchain analysis. So, and then we're seeing with series that you just a massive amount of content is kind of being serialized and put out there. So we're really excited about that. And there's a lot of future possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can take questions. I think you did a good job with all that, and yeah, thanks for being here. We can also talk offline.
Questions? Yeah.
Great. Thank you, guys. So we have some questions that have come through. Let's start with this one. Free2Z is an excellent platform to generate content and receive donations in Zec. How do you feel about developing a tool that has helped many people in different circumstances within the Zcash community?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some of these stories, like, it almost, I might tear up, hold on. Let me take a deep breath. It's gonna be all right. Like, yeah, I mean, it makes it really worth it, because if you're just building software and people aren't using it and appreciating it, then, we probably would have given up. But it's like, it is making a difference. And even if it's just a handful, like all the tourists are at the water park, and right in the slide, and Montserrat, the not to be pretentious and compare it to Montserrat, but the parking lot was empty. And it's like, maybe that's okay, but like it makes a difference in some people's lives, and like that's important. And I think I think there can be traction there that it's actually working and it's creating prosperity. And so yeah, it like that makes it worth doing, and that's like why we're still in the game.
Yeah. Next question. Every day more people are joining Free2Z. Do you envision it becoming a platform that can support multiple digital exchanges in the future?
Digital exchanges?
Yes. I'm not entirely sure what that person meant. I don't know if you...
It's interesting, yeah. Like, I'll throw it over to the league. I'm kind of the engineering. I mean, we're both engineers, but Jonathan is surrounded by lawyers. He has a very legal. Exchanges.
Yeah, in terms of exchanges, so I think one thing to highlight with Free2Z is like there's an opportunity for growth in multiple directions. So we have a platform right now that's 100% based on Zcash, and in the future, I think we can see other opportunities to interact both with other potential, types of blockchains and coins, and also with fiat more directly. I think one of the key things that we see is that on Free2Z, like Zcash is the heart, but at the same time, you're also trying to bring in people who maybe haven't have that much familiarity with Zcash and get them to use it in kind of like a daily way. And that's where we feel like our sweet spot is. And so we do want to make it easier for folks, for instance, who may just have like a credit card or something, to be able to come in. They should be able to transfer back and forth, maybe get their Zcash. And we've already been like through legal review on that. It seems like this is a real possibility. So yeah, I do see like, I don't ever see this as being like a typical exchange, but there will be abilities to kind of like do some sort of conversion and be able to support content creators directly on the platform. So yeah, that is a direction we want to take it.
Great.
Yeah, a lot of times we're kind of visualizing the person who's never heard of Zcash and what is their experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, like making that more fluid. So it's like, oh wow, yeah, this thing really works, and you're like, it's very useful, and so then they can see it's a useful tool. And yeah, just kind of like putting ourselves in their shoes, though, is like never heard of it, don't know what this is, and what's their like first experience with it. So
I guess one of the key insights that kind of Skylar had with this application is that you really don't need to use the blockchain for everything, right? So there are certain situations in which putting something in an immutable blockchain makes total sense, right? Like if we're talking about these serious transactions, someone's paycheck or making a payment across borders. Like you want that on the chain. But there's a lot of like smaller things like, social media intents, that kind of stuff, where we think that maybe that's not the best use case for a blockchain, and where like a sort of traditional web application makes more sense. And that's basically the way that Free2Z has been built. It's like, okay, when we can use a database, we'll do that. We're not going to put everything right onto Zcash. And the exciting thing about that is we've been developing this sort of internal token, the 2Z, which allows you to show these sort of like instantaneous intents. So like if I want to support content, boost it. If I want to reward a creator, like you can do that already with the existing platform. And then we're going to offer a way to make those 2Zs, convertible into Zcash.
Is that an official announcement?
Yeah, that's an official announcement. Yeah. No, we're gonna have a way to make. No, this is exciting, right? But there will be a way to take the 2Zs and at some point to cash them out. How that, in what form that takes, we're still figuring that, but it's going to be possible. So we see developing these sort of like social credits as being like a big thing on Free2Z, and it's why content producers are going to find it very easy to get rewarded for just producing great content and doing what they love. So
awesome. That's cool to hear that announcement. Skylar called it out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm like thinking, oh, well, okay.
I don't think people would have noticed unless he's like, oh, it's an announcement. They're like, yeah. But no, this is a huge capability that we think is important.
Very cool. If you could equate an ideal Free2Z, to another current optimized platform, what would that platform be? Comparing, your guys' vision of Free2Z to like a current platform that you guys.
We're gonna destroy X, obviously. All of it. Yeah. Z is greater than X. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Like, there's this famous book about creating startups, and one of the chapters, I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, but it's have an enemy. And so, I mean, we have plenty, like we kind of started out like GoFundMe, those, we're going to get them. But then, it's like kind of everybody in big tech. But then, if they want to be the everything app, like I think that's a good enemy to have. We'll take that. And it might seem, like I'm kind of, I think it's a fair criticism that maybe I'm overly ambitious with the software I'm writing and with like a small budget. But, I think I've kind of decided to embrace that recently and just like, yeah, we're going to beat X.
That's it. We have one more question. And so how did you guys come up with the Free2Z name, and then maybe touch on how you guys are playing off, free to.
Yeah. So the first domain I got was free to give, but then it's like free to create, free to donate, free to, build community, free to, post my travel blog, free to talk, free to speak, and it's like free to a variable. Yeah. And then free to Z.cash was there. Mm-hmm. And I was going to use Zcash from like the beginning. And so, that's free to Z, but then I also have a degree in math. So my favorite set is the integers, which is the big double stroke Z, which is kind of where I don't know, do we have a 2Z logo? We didn't put our new logos on there.
Yeah, no.
But, so, the big Z integers is like all the possible infinite places and space you could go. And then the little Z is like, a particular point of, in Z. So Z is just like a great letter.
Yeah. Great.
So yeah, Z is greater than X. Because we never really had an elevator pitch because we're just experimenting initially. But yeah, I think Z is greater than X is our like elevator pitch. That's the official announcement.
Great. Z is greater than X.
Great. Yeah. That's all the questions we had.
Cool.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Great.
Well, good. Well, we're strategically giving you back like 2 minutes so you can catch up to the published schedule. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
All right. Thanks.
I thought you were still mine, but you're free. You are free to go. After all of this time, I thought you were still mine, but you're free to go. You are free to go. Free.
Oh, just kidding. I'm not. It's not good morning. Just to Luca. Good. Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Nah, not really. You did great, man. I'm gonna head on up now.
I was here. I was at the table. Yeah.
table. A lookup table is a scheme where a prover wants to convince a verifier about the fact that we have two sets, a potentially huge one. You can think of it as a table, as a vector. And then we have a smaller one that we want to prove that only has elements that come from the former. One important thing is that lookup tables are usually not protocols by their own. It's not something that we want to do and stop there. They're usually, most of the times, sub-protocols. So it is important that when we extract the information from the huge table and we get it in a tiny set, we are still able to manage this set. We want this set to be something still meaningful because we'll keep doing computations on that. And for instance, like a graphical example, we have a big set, size big N, and there are some of these elements that we want to use for something else. So we will extract them. They may be in any order, sometimes also repeated, and we end up with a set that is potentially way smaller, of size smaller. And now we want to make computations on this small set and forget about all the information that we don't need anymore. And I have classify a bit lookup tables depending on the application we are using. And I will say we have two kinds of tables. We have static tables and dynamic tables. So the table is this big thing that we start working with. For a static table, the case is that the table doesn't change. It's always the same. And well, it may change a bit, but we will see that later. Application of this, for instance, are range proofs. The table just has all the elements within a range, and we want to prove that our smaller set has only elements that fall in the range. Membership proofs, here is where, well, static tables are not ideal, but we have a set of public keys of some users that are authorized to do some computation, and we want to link, for instance, ourselves with that set. And then also memory access, which also changes depending on the application, but we have this, like our memory, and we want to access maybe a chunk of it. And then we have dynamic tables. Dynamic tables are tables that are built on the fly, I would say, during a computation. And they are getting very, very much into the stage now because of the zero-knowledge Ethereum virtual machine. And they are usually used for input-output relations. So for instance, when we want to prove that something is the output of a hash, the arithmetization of the hash is very expensive, also for bitwise operations. So sometimes it's just better to prove that our input-output pair is inside a pre-computed table. And then we have the lookup itself. The lookup is the relation that links the smaller vector with the big table. And then I have decided we can have these three scenarios. I have divided the constructions we have so far. And it may be the case that we want to hide this relation. For instance, if we are using range proofs for snarks, our witness is secret. We want to keep it secret. So we don't want to link which are the elements, for instance, within the range that we are using for our witness. In membership proofs, it's the same. If I want to extract my public key from a huge set and I want to stay anonymous, of course, I don't want to leak this relation. And also, in a similar way, for anonymous credentials. Then it can be the case that the lookup table is part of a computation that is public and fixed. And in that case, the scenario I can think of is memory access. I know which is the part of the memory that I will have to access at a specific step of a computation, and that's fixed from before. And then the last case I can think of is when we do lookups on the fly. This means that it's not fixed from before, it's not something that I knew in advance, but it's also not something that I want to keep secret. I'm okay with letting you know which is the lookup that I'm performing. And you can think this for range proofs when the witness is not something thicker. And input-output relations, when I do a table on the fly, when I have a dynamic table and I compute something on it. it may be the case that I'm not interested on hiding it.
Titled
And then
Ziggurat, the
we have
network
something that
testing
we
and stability framework for Zcash. Like the multi-step pyramids of antiquity, Ziggurat stands to provide multiple layers of stability for your peer-to-peer network. By reverse engineering the network protocol using lightweight synthetic nodes, Ziggurat provides Zcash node developers with the foundation of reliability, performance, and scalability needed to realize their true potential. In this talk, Mark will discuss the Ziggurat process and as well as cover some of the findings and insights that he has gleaned from their work. And with that, take it away, Mark.
Thank you, John. All right. Quick show of hands. Developers, business people, community members, other. Okay, cool. Just so I know kind of who I'm talking to here. Welcome, welcome. Future has not yet been written, right, folks? Well, check this out. Hold on, don't clap yet, don't clap yet. It's only a matter of time before something like this happens. This was our thesis going into our grant writing and the Ziggurat effort. It's only a matter of time before a network layer hack takes down an entire blockchain. We've seen some near misses, we've seen some interesting things. And I will say that you are all lucky that we found a lot of these things before somebody malicious did that was outfitted with a crawler and the same knowledge that we had. So let's go into some of this. We're going to go through an overview of the history of the project, motivation, all those things, and then we're going to go right into the Ziggurat process, because that's what Ziggurat really is. It's not a piece of software. It's not a synthetic node, which it comprises, but it's really a process by which we test blockchains, and specifically the peer-to-peer networks in the blockchains, both single node testing and multi-node network-wide testing. There will be QR codes in this talk, so get your phones ready because we're going to be linking to things and stuff like that. And I figured the best way to make this as accessible as possible, make it listenable and engaging, is to include those. So be warned. Let's get into it. The first thing I got to say is that Ziggurat is not just me. There's people out there that are better at networking, better at Rust, better at React, things like that. It's a group of people. It's also not just Equilibrium, but our sister company, Eiger. Luca is part of that here. And, and this links to the README contributor section. We're also open to contributors, so if you're interested in contributing, you should. Networks are vulnerable, period. And peer-to-peer networking is hard. Things like encrypted handshakes, things like scalability, availability. Peer-to-peer networking is not a client-server model. The entire system is sort of encapsulated within one peer, and those connect to other fully encapsulated systems that need to communicate. And bad things can happen. Like you can get a polluted peer list. You could halt the network on the roll-up side of a bridge. That should sound familiar to some of you. And you can just take it down by sending bad messages across the network layer. That was one thing we found, was that, I won't get into the details. If you're here to find out findings, like specifics about bad things that can happen, I'm not going to be the guy that tells the bad guys how to do that, but I will sort of give you an overview of things like sending a nasty message to a peer that can just completely crash the node. And if somebody was outfitted with a crawler and that knowledge, they could probably take down the entire network in like 20 minutes. Luckily, those findings that we've had have been fixed, and it's a little bit safer. Can never guarantee full safety, but here we are. Has anybody read the Trail of Bits DARPA report that came out in 2021? You have. Horrifying. In terms of like what centrality means and the different measures of centrality. One of them was networking and the network metrics involved, which we're going to get into later. Solana, Arbitrum, there was like 4 yesterday of things. They weren't quite network layer, but they were close. So we'll see. That being said, Zcash is awesome. I think it's a great mix of the OG cypherpunk and state-of-the-art zero knowledge stuff. As far as a client goes, we are a consultancy, and as far as clients goes, is one of the best groups of people that we've ever worked with. So that's really cool. So at the risk of my personal reputation, I will say that I'm bullish on Zec. All right. That's what I'm talking about. Is Hanu here? This guy, the Zcash theme? No? Okay. Just checking. I guess, funding history has been over the course of 3 grants, starting with simple single node testing to ensure that Zebra and Zcash D could talk to each other. They couldn't quite talk to each other, but now they can. And then we moved into the full network wide, and then we moved into some really fun advanced stuff that we'll touch upon late in the talk. Why it's like the multi-step pyramids of blah, 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 blah. It's a cool word that starts with Z. So we picked that. Any Sumerians in the audience? Yeah? Dude, sick. Nice work. Yeah. All right. And thus, Ziggurat, the project, was born. And here's how we go about doing things. We have what they call a synthetic node. This is a very scientific diagram of our synthetic node here. It's a lightweight Zcash node that does not participate in consensus or anything else. It only speaks networking, and it can sort of go and mock being a Zcash node. It knows the handshake. It knows what to do with peer lists. It knows what to do with block requests, messages, and things like that. And with that, we reverse engineer the entire protocol. Sounds like we may be reinventing the wheel, but it gives us flexibility and independence. We don't have to develop at the cadence of the Zcash D team or the Zebra team. It gives us more or less black box testing. We do instrument the nodes. We do test all that stuff, so we can and do that, but typically it's just sending messages until we get the right response and then moving forward through there. And we did that with the entire network protocol, which then becomes sort of the first de facto network layer spec. There is a whole spec for the Zcash, system, but this becomes the conformance test for the network. And that's the first layer of what we call the CPR tests. So do all the node implementations talk to each other? Do they conform to the network spec? Are all the network messages tested? Things like that. This is cool because if you want to create a new Zcash implementation, you can, and you can use the Ziggurat test suite to make sure that it conforms. On top of that, the next layer of the Ziggurat, if you will, is load and stress testing, performance testing, and then finally malicious actor simulation and the almighty fuzzing, which is where we find a ton of interesting stuff. Fuzzing, if you're not familiar, is sending random messages to the input. It just programmatically spins up like a bunch of nodes and then sends tens of thousands of different random bytes and things like that to nodes, most of which get rejected, some of which don't. Here's some test examples. There's ZG Conformance 1, which is the handshake, ZG Conformance 10, which is a block request and block sync. But seriously, there's over, I think, 120 different tests that we run currently on both Zebra and Zcash D. And if you go there, you will see app.runziggurat.com, which we're going to demo in a minute. But that is our web app that goes through all that stuff. This is the result of the first round of grants, which is a bunch of bug fixes. As I said, credit to Equilibrium, thank you. And those were all fixed and closed and merged by the Zebra team. Thanks in particular to Tior, who's, in addition to everybody else, very helpful. From there, once we feel like the single nodes are, robust enough, then we can move to network-wide testing. This is the whole stack for the network-wide testing. It starts with the network itself. The first thing we did was take the synthetic node and outfit it with a crawler. Whoops, oh no. Which outputs a sample JSON, goes into another tool called Crunchy, which analyzes it for very specific network metrics like degree of centrality, closeness, betweenness, things like that. Outputs a state JSON, goes to the visualizer. Also goes to something we call intelligent peer sharing. Get to that in a second, but that's basically a way to sort of repair the network and make it more homogeneous by suggesting better peers to each of the nodes that we encounter. That comes back, goes back to the crawler, and on and on and on. And this is all theoretical right now. We've not done any of this on mainnet. Well, we've done the crawler on mainnet, but we haven't done the active peer sharing on main yet. But the findings we have been interesting. This is an example of the GUI. What we have on top in the yellow is the, I want to say, yeah, okay, well, it's the user agent. So good to see everybody's up to date for the most part. Most of the people are on 6.2. And then the protocol version is mostly 170018 with some 100s mixed in there. Wait, what the heck is this? There's not 4,000 nodes in the network. It turns out that Zec is not the only cryptocurrency that uses the Zcash network. There's another cryptocurrency called Flux that I believe is a fork of Zcash that uses the network but does not participate in consensus. This, I believe in Zebra, has been fixed where they sort of filter those out. It's kind of tough, but you can do a looks like a duck, smells like a duck, walks like a duck kind of thing. Quacks like a duck, not smells like a duck. I don't know what a duck smells like. But that was another interesting thing. So there's really probably 200 to 300 Zcash nodes and not 4,000. So that was interesting. We have this really cool looking force graph that's WebGPU and WebGL enabled that takes the input from Crunchy, and this is good. I mean, it's very pretty. It's kind of confusing to look at, but what it's really good at is detecting islands in the network. So, you know, if you have a bunch of nodes over here, then one very central node, then a bunch of nodes over here, we call that an island, and typically it's to be avoided. And for the most part, the Zcash network looks pretty good. These graphs, in addition to the next one, have been filtered so they do not include the Flux node. So this is the Zcash network, the Zec network, I should say. We also have a geographical display. Don't worry, we're not doxing anybody. This is very coarse geolocation based on free versions of the IP location databases and internet provider IP addresses and not specific node IP addresses. You can see these sort of clusters here, the ones that are bunched together are all kind of reporting from the same region, not even really the same city. So just to get a sense of where things are, but not to identify anybody. And this is also really useful for the other types of network metrics that I'll show, like this one. This, I believe, is betweenness. So you can see this node is connected to all those other nodes, and it's very betweeny, which I'll explain shortly. Let's take a look at that. So this is app.runziggurat.com. This is the first thing that I showed with this graph here. I'm going to zoom in just a bit. And here's all of our tests that we run. A whole bunch of them. There's a spec for all these tests in our GitHub repo that explains what each of these are. Here's our malicious actor tests. Sending the wrong version, sending something after the handshake that shouldn't be sent, distress testing, doing bad blocks, bad peer lists, things like that. Here's our force graph. It's all animated and nice. You can zoom in, zoom around. When you click on a node, or you mouse over it, you get information. But in here, here's our geolocation graph. Go Europe. Very Zcashy in Europe. It's nice to see. One fun thing is you press N while you're here, they all connect. But when you click on one, again, you see all the different connections. And you can cycle through the different metrics. So definitely check that out when you have a sec. You have a nice like FPS counter too. We got some good frame rates here. PlayStation people would be happy. So that's fun. So what does that stuff mean? Well, degree is the simplest one. Sometimes you just hear it called centrality. It's just the count of connections in the node. And the more connections a node has, the more central it is, the more of a degree of centrality it has. Betweenness gets a little bit more interesting because you have the shortest path between two nodes. And the more your node shows up on that shortest path, the more between-y it is. And then closeness is a statistical measure. You take all the shortest paths of all the nodes, and then you basically statistically assign scores to all of them, and that's how close your node is. The goal for these is to have a narrow range. So if one node is very betweeny and the other node is not, you want to scoot that all together so that they're all very close to each other in the measurement. And that way your network is more homogeneous. We would like to include the trail of bits DARPA report measurements in some future work, which is consensus influence, which means we would need to extend a little bit beyond the network layer to check that out. And eigencentrality, which is like a vector measurement of these things. But what if the crawler wasn't just passive? What if we weren't just measuring stuff? What if we were actively trying to repair the network? And this is where the intelligent peer sharing came in, and with the goal of narrowing these metrics down. We did simulations on mainnet where we were able to increase and decrease certain measurements to get there, but that's just theory. We've not run that because, well, I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to be the guy that crashes the network by accident. Another interesting finding was that a lot of nodes are connected to themselves, which may be because there's IPv4 and IPv6, or because there's multiple IP addresses being reported, but that's just, something to point out. And then last month, the real fun began, and we actually did a red team exercise on testnet. We tried to pollute the network with fake nodes. We tried to do block request spam. We tried to do connection spam, and we looked at all the CVEs and all the known issues and tried to sort of poke and prod at those as well. I can share that we had varying degrees of success with all these things, and the degrees of success were dependent on whether it was a Zcash D or a Zebra node. That's as much detail as I want to get into on that right now. That report has been responsibly disclosed to the right people, and I'm happy to report that with the latest Zebra version, at least, many of these were mitigated. So network's looking pretty safe, One of the tools we used was what they called an inverse crawler, which basically, instead of going around to all the nodes, it just kind of sat there and wait for other nodes to connect to it. And you can generate a interesting public and private. Some hidden nodes would connect, and then we would know about them too. So that's something to consider. And this new sort of tainter collector model, where that inverse crawler would sit there, but then feed out bad IP addresses and bad nodes to these tainter nodes, which would then go to the network and pollute things. Again, testnet, not on mainnet. We're not doing any of this. If you see any of this, it's not us. That's really it. I mean, that's the overview of what we've been doing, and I'm hoping there's some good questions that we can get into some discussion with the last few minutes here. Thank you.
Okay, there's a couple questions in Hoover. At the moment, Ziggurat tests are only run occasionally, but we could catch more bugs if we ran them on every node change or release. How can we make that happen?
Well, they run daily. So I don't know how much more often we need to do that. That should theoretically catch the new versions. When we do work with the teams too, they sort of will notify us and say, hey, there's a new version. Could you check it out? And one thing that we could do is actually work this into the CI/CD of the actual mainline repos themselves. As of now, we've left that to the teams to do, but that's something we could explore.
In the Zcash network protocol, the IP addresses of all the nodes are publicly available. How can we improve Zcash network privacy?
Use a VPN. Like I said, we're not trying to dox people. We're not trying to find where exactly people are. So we do, in our reporting, very coarse geolocation. That doesn't shield the IP addresses of a naked Zcash node running out in the world from anybody else from checking that out. But in terms of what we do, we try to balance privacy, of course, with utility. So I'm open to ideas too about how we could do that better.
When you say nodes are connected, what exactly do you mean by that? Are you monitoring their connections?
Node connection usually means a successful handshake between the nodes. And this is debatable, and this is something we're in active discussion with the teams about. If the node shows up on their peer list, we assume they're connected, but obviously it just means that historically they've been connected to a node and doesn't mean they're currently connected. We optimistically assume connections in the case of that.
Instead of running the network improvements services, could we fix the node implementations instead?
Yeah, totally. They have. They know a lot of the bugs that we saw, a lot of the things that we fixed, the flux filtering, stuff like that has been a result of our findings. What we try to do is be sub-separate from the node implementation teams. So we, at the outset, said we don't work on Zcash, we don't work on Zebra. We only report stuff that we find, and then we leave that to the teams to do. However, in the last few months, there have been greater discussions about our teams intermingling with the implementation teams as well.
Well, that's all the questions we have on Whova. If there's any questions in the audience, we can field those, but otherwise, we'll go ahead and stop it there.
Cool. Well, thank you. Oh, yeah.
There's a question in the back.
Probably not. You know, the Ziggurat node itself is more of a full node. You could run it, as far as I understand, a lot of the light wallets are using the RPC endpoints or using the network port. Okay. No, it hasn't. We haven't touched that yet. Sorry. Yeah. Yes.
Flexa.
It's called Flux.
Or Flux, yeah.
And it's a fork of Zcash, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. And they didn't change any of the networking code when they forked it. So when you run a Flux node, it just connects to the same network as all the other Zcash nodes. It has a different block height. It has a different network port. It has all these different things that, you know, you can use to identify it. And it just they run their own consensus on top of the same network. So they share different blocks. They have different, well, really just share different blocks is all it is, yeah.
Oh. Have Zcash nodes been running their transactions as a result? I'm sorry, maybe it's a stupid question.
I'm sorry, if Zcash nodes been running?
Like, have they been a parasite on our network?
I don't think so. I mean, they haven't. It's noisy. It's more traffic, but I don't think it's actively harmed anything.
I see.
Yeah, it's just kind of annoying. I guess is how you could say it.
Yeah. Were you, sorry, another question.
Oh, go ahead.
Were you involved in analyzing the network spam situation from about 18 months ago?
No.
Okay. would it have made sense?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I understand the DDoS situation we've been going through.
The dust attack.
Yeah, it's a network level thing, right? So
no, because that's more of a consensus layer thing. That's more transaction spam and transaction output spam. So we saw it and we were aware of it, and we didn't learn anything that the teams didn't already know, I guess is
got it.
a way of saying that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, if that's it, then we'll go ahead and stop. If
Thank
there's
you.
no more questions.
You can find me afterwards too. I'm happy to talk to anybody.
Yes, and if there's any other questions, you can post them in the Whova, obviously, so we can answer them on your own time.
All right. Enjoy your lunch, peeps.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
you.